All right, I think we can get started now. The meeting recording has started. So, Sanjay, could you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are new here, if you guys haven't filled out this form yet, please do so. This way we can get you guys the programming resources for the future. There's a couple of quick reminders for tomorrow. And so tomorrow's going to be, of course, the programming test. So we're asking everyone to have two cameras, one on their computer where they're doing their coding, and one as a separate device, whether it be your school iPad, just separately on the side. That way, it's easier for us to monitor any cheating, which we had problems with in the past. So if you guys could get two cameras ready by tomorrow, that'd be awesome. Also, for those of you who haven't joined the Slack yet, please make sure to do so. The Slack invite was sent a couple of days ago by Mr. Two. So if you guys haven't joined that, please do so. And finally, since we're not getting much of a review day, we're asking anyone that needs help or has any questions, join around 5 o'clock tomorrow. And that way we can answer any questions. The test itself will be at 6 o'clock. It will be around 6 to 7:30.
I actually had something come up, so like I know I didn't say it yesterday, but like, is it possible that I could like reschedule the test in a sense?
Yeah, so we're still thinking about a tentative alternative test date. We still haven't decided on when that would be, but yeah, that's fine. But for the rest of you guys, if you have any questions, join around 5, anytime between 5 and 6, and you guys can just ask us questions, kind of like office hours, and we'll just start the test at 6 p.m. So if you guys could be here before 6, that'd be awesome. That way we can start the test right away and end by 7:30. Anish, is there anything you'd like to add?
Is there anyone else who cannot take the test tomorrow? Because we'll have to reach out to you and get a tentative date.
I think there were like 5 other people last class.
Just raise your hand or type in chat. Somehow let us know how many people can't.
Wait, what time is the test tomorrow?
5 o'clock, we're going to be like opening up for office hours. So if you have any questions, we'll open up at 5 o'clock, and the actual test itself will be at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And we request that you join before 6 o'clock, just so that getting you out of here as fast as possible will be there. So I'm Teja, Arya, and Adwan. Are you three the only? You three are the only. Okay, so I'll be reaching out to you guys.
Just for
Yeah, also Arun and I
it's
think
gonna be
also
at
raised
6
their hand.
p.m. It's not gonna be 6 a.m. It's gonna be 6 p.m.
Yeah, 6 p.m. 6 a.m.
And
will be the thing.
to answer the question about what will the test consist of, so there's gonna be 40 multiple choice and short answer questions. It's gonna be on everything you guys learned in this past week, and then there's also gonna be 2 or 4 FRQ questions. A couple about classes, a couple about methods, and something about algorithms. That's what's gonna be on the test. If you guys want, you guys can also view the review exercise slides. You guys can review that, and if you have any questions, you can just email us. It is in the bootcamp folder, and I'll put a direct link in the chat for those of you who don't have access to it already.
Sorry, my internet's cutting out right now. So you said something about 40 multiple choice. I didn't hear after that really.
Yeah, so there's going to be 40 multiple choice and short answer questions, and then there's also going to be a 4-question free response.
And then for short answer, it's not going to be like writing an essay. It's going to be like a sentence, or maybe just a quick, like, let's say you have to do a Boolean expression. You have to say whether it responded with true or false, something like that.
Anyone else have any questions?
Are we gonna like open like coding rooms, and are you gonna like ask us to write out a program? Is it gonna be that way in the free response?
Yeah, that's how the free response is going to work. We're going to have everyone just do it in coding rooms. For the 5 of you or the 4 of you that have your hands raised, you guys can lower them if you don't have any questions.
All right then.
Renaway, do you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Yep, okay. I think that's it then for reminders. I think Sanjay, you can continue on now.
Oh wait, before that, anyone not in the Slack? I know we said join the Slack invite, but anyone not in the Slack? I'll get you a join link in a second.
Yeah, I'm not in the Slack.
Who's that, Teja? All right. Raise your hand if you're not in the Slack already.
I had a question about the Slack.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are we no longer using the one that we had before? Like
No. So
No.
for this year, we'll be just using the new Slack. The past year Slack has been like the storage is full, so
okay.
we'll just be using this Slack. We'll be creating new Slacks every year for every season. So, anyone else have any questions?
Teja,
Okay,
I believe I'll get a join link in the chat in a second. All right, we're good to go.
Krish answered or asked something in the chat. Will the review be posted onto the ArrayLists programming Slack? Yeah, we'll post it in the Slack. We'll also put it in the yeah, we'll just put it in the Slack as well. We'll also put the
In the folder or something.
Yeah, we'll post the folder and the review slides in the Slack. Anyone else have any questions?
Sorry, I just need to use the bathroom really quickly. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, Sanjay, I think you can continue now. And for this upcoming topic, it's going to be a bit more difficult for some of you guys than yesterday's topic. So if you're going too fast or if you guys have any questions, just shout it out. Sanjay, you can continue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so if I'm going too fast or have any questions, just you can unmute, just tell me. All right, so let's go on. All right, so today we'll cover access levels, modifiers, and ArrayLists. All right, so first, let's go back to what we talked about before about variable scope. So in a previous definition of variable scope, we said variables declared in one method are not directly accessible in other methods. And while this is an okay explanation, it's not a complete explanation. So our complete explanation is variables declared inside a code block, and a code block is just a set of curly braces, are not accessible outside of that code block. And then the reason we expand our definition to this is because class declarations, method declarations, if statements, for loops, and while loops are all examples of code blocks. So if you just say method, you're not considering all the other types of code blocks there are. So when a code block is done executing, the variables declared inside the block are deleted from the memory. So for example, imagine I had like a for loop, and inside I made a variable. So after a for loop is done running, the variable will just be deleted. So you won't be able to access that anywhere. All right. So any questions on this? All right. All right. So next we'll talk about member access levels. So I'm pretty sure a few of you guys asked about public and private before, so I'll explain it now. All right, so in all the previous examples, all members had the public modifier. And that allows us to change members. That allows us to access members outside of the class. For example, in our main method. So there are two other modifiers that can be used inside of public, and they change what code has access to the member. So we're not going to learn about Java packages today. So we can just assume that not giving a modifier is the same as saying private. All right, so here we have three modifiers. All right, so for the cases of the test and so for case of the test, you don't have to know about subclasses or protected. So we'll just talk about public and private. All right, so public modifiers are, so if you put a public modifier before a method or a property, this means that you can access it anywhere. So that means that you can access it inside the class, and world just means any other classes, such as the main. We'll skip protected because you don't have to know that. Next, private. So private is only accessible by class. So this basically locks the property or method that you can only use it inside that class and you can't use it anywhere else. All right, any questions? Okay. So as I said, access levels are used to hide parts of code from other parts of code. So for example, some properties are used for internal housekeeping that don't need to be accessed from other from other parts of code. Properties that must be assigned or retrieved in a specific way. One example is ArrayList, and we'll cover this later today. So just remember that member access levels have to do with this example. And finally, methods used internally but don't make sense to the public. All right, so the general rule of thumb here is to use the most restrictive access level you can for all members. So if you don't need to access outside code, then you can make your members private. So the only time you would have to make a member public is if you want to access it from another class or some outside code. All right, any questions on this? All right, so here's one example. So here we have our public class cube. So here we have 3 properties: length, breadth, and height. So as you can see, the modifiers on each of these properties are different. So in our first example, public double length. So if you have a public modifier, then that means that you can access it anywhere. So imagine if you had a main function, you can access the value of this length anywhere. So like, for example, imagine you make an instance of cube and you want to set the value of length to say 5. So because this is public, you can do that because you can access this from anywhere. We'll skip over protected. And next, private double height. So if you try to access the property of height of the cube instance, you wouldn't be able to do it because if you say private, you won't be able to access these properties in other parts of code. Did someone say something?
Oh no, I thought for a second I didn't see the presentation in the folder. Now I got it.
Okay. All right, so any questions on properties and modifiers? All right. All right, so next we have methods. So methods are similar to properties, where if you have public, if you have the public modifier in the method, for example, we have public double volume. So that means that you can use this volume method on any instance of cube. So say you make an instance of cube and you want to find the volume, you can do that because you have the public modifier, so it will allow us to use the volume method. Again, we'll skip over protected and private. So we have a private method here called private inc edge link. So if you wanted to use this code, use this method somewhere else, it wouldn't let us because it's private. So that means you can only access it inside this class. All right, any questions on this? Okay.
Wait,
All right.
I had a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Wait, so even when you make an instance of that class, you can't use the method?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so here's the first exercise. So on coding rooms, use the cube class we made yesterday and change the access level of 3 properties so that they cannot be accessed outside of the class. But all the methods you have should still work. But if you try to access just the properties outside of the class, they won't work. So we'll give you guys 5 minutes and to change your code and to test it out.
Are we just gonna go back to day 5?
I think so. Wait, Arnav, did you make a new classroom or is it the same one?
I need to make one real quick. Give me a sec.
Wait, can you use the same one as yesterday? Because they kind
I
of need
mean,
their code.
does everyone have access to yesterday's? Does anyone not have access to yesterday's?
Yeah, you just have to go into like the archived classrooms.
All right, so if you guys can find it, that's fine.
Oh,
If
yeah.
not, is there anyone who cannot find yesterday's coding rooms? Raise your hands. Okay, you guys can just use Aria. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. You guys can just do it in yesterday's coding rooms. I'll help Aria get it to access to it.
All right, yeah. So just go back to your cube class and change the access levels, and then make sure they work.
Arunima, do you have a question?
No, I can't access the thing either.
Okay. I'll just message you guys separately.
It says it can't load the main class when I just like use the cube.java.
All right, we'll look at it right now.
All right.
Luan, check your comments in the main class.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Does anyone need Oh wait, yeah, hold on. I'll get the previous slides.
I mean, it works just the same.
By the way, day 5 slides are in the chat, so if you need if you weren't here yesterday and need instructions, the cube class should be in day 5.
I just changed I changed like the access level, and I got an error. So I just want to confirm if it's the right error. Can I?
Sure, let me take a look.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the rest of you who are raising your hands are like done testing, right? Or do you
Yes,
guys want
sir.
to? Okay. And Shimantz, I'll check yours right now.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, you privated your constructor. That is technically what an error would be if you tried to access a constructor from the world aspect. Like again, private doesn't allow access to the world. If you look at the table, so yeah, that is a proper error. Though you'll never see a private constructor, or you'll rarely see a private constructor for the reason that constructors are generally used by the world, not by the class itself.
All right. Thank you.
For some reason, the coding room stopped working for me. Like it loaded and then I couldn't do anything, and it says like I no longer have access to it.
Do you try reloading?
Yeah, I did.
Oh. You guys know how to fix it? I don't know how to fix that.
Maybe try logging out and then logging back in and seeing if it works.
All right, I'll try that.
I don't really understand what the protected thing means because I was looking at the presentation right now again. I really don't understand what the protected
Yeah, all right.
identifier means.
Yeah, all right. So, if we're being honest, subclasses are kind of complex, and they won't be on the test, so you won't really have to worry about it right now.
Yeah, and I also like I was just like randomly just searching up like preparing for tomorrow, and I was like, well, really I won't be there tomorrow, but I was still preparing. I saw that there were like these like different like object oriented like programming like concepts and things that are like I don't know like abstraction and inheritance and things like that. Will we be learning that?
Well, not in boot camp. If you come on the FRC subgroup, we'll learn some about object-oriented programming and stuff.
Oh, okay, because like I was scared, like I was like kind of getting freaking out. I'm like, oh, we haven't learned this yet, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, don't
Um,
worry. The only thing that'll be on the test is stuff that we've learned already. So yeah.
oh, all right. Thank you.
As far as it goes right now, protected and private for you guys is the same thing. There is a difference, but for now, for the test, it's the same thing. We won't be asking anything about protected.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so let's move on now. All right, so does someone want to show their code? Just unmute if you want to.
Okay, Thomian, do you want to present your code?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't really do much. I just changed all the public to private in the cube class. But I can copy and paste, I guess, or I don't know.
Yeah, sure, copy and paste.
Okay. Wait, in the presentation, like for everyone, it's already private, like in the cube class.
Oh,
So
all right. Yeah, so you didn't really have to do much for this. You just had to change public to private. And then if you run, oh wait. All right.
I can add these statements if you guys want. Like
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
okay.
Sandra, make sure you share your coding room screen.
Oh yeah, hold on.
Yeah, I've added the statements.
All right, wait. All right, so if you run it, as you can see, we get 2 errors. So on line 22, this is trying to access first.link. So we have one cube called first, and we're trying to access a link property of first. But if you go back to cube, we can see that the property of linked is private. So that's the reason we get an error, and it says linked has private access in cube. So that's the reason we can't access linked in our main class, and we can only access it in cube class. All right, yeah. So the purpose of this was just for you guys to realize that if you put private on a property, then you can't access it outside of that property. All right. So we can. All right. So any questions on this? All right. So any questions on anything we've covered since now?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if I create a variable like property inside a method inside cube, would I be able to access it in another method in cube Java?
Wait, can you say it again? Sorry.
So like I'll type it in the main in the presentation. So like if I create a new variable inside let's say public string to string,
Uh-huh.
so would I be able to access it if it's private? Would I be able to access it from public double volume?
Okay, so remember we talked about variable scope, and so basically any variables that you make inside a code block, in this case, toString is our code block, you won't be able to access that anywhere else. So no, the short answer is you won't be able to access that anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? That was a good question. All right, if there's no questions, I'll move on. All right, so next, static members. So as you guys have seen throughout bootcamp, you've probably seen the word static a lot, like for example, in public static void main. But so what exactly does static mean? So static, first we'll talk about static properties. So static properties are variables shared across all instances of a class. So some examples are the value of the property as a result of an expensive operation. An expensive operation means like it takes lots of processing power to do it, and it takes lots of time. So an expensive operation such as a database lookup, and it's the same for all instances. Another example is a shared cache between all instances, and a global counter that should be incremented by all instances. And there's an example of this in the next slide that I'll show you guys. All right.
I'm just asking what is a shared cache? Because I've always like cleared cache and stuff, but I've never really understood what it is.
Anish, want to explain that? Or Arnav?
So static is a little bit harder of a thing to deal with. So like when it says a shared cache between all instances, it means let's say we have cube 1 and cube 2, all right? And we have a property or a variable in, let's say, the cube class called what should be common of all cubes. So let's say faces. All cubes have 6 faces, right? No matter what. All cubes will have 6 faces. So what you do is you make that variable, the number of faces in that cube class. Actually, if you pull up coding rooms, I think it's better instead of asking people to do it in their mind.
All right.
Do you have do we have a cube class in the presentation workspace?
Yeah, we do.
All right, cool. Yeah, stream that. Static is a little bit harder to deal with. So let's say in the presentation workspace, add a property called faces.
All right.
All right. Someone want to do that in cube.java?
And you can make it a private, and you can make it an integer. And for now, we'll just declare it right there. Generally, you want to declare it in a constructor. We'll just say it's equal to 6 right there. So right in line 2, just go faces equals 6. Then make the variable static. I think you might need to do this one, Sanjay.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Oh wait, and then make it public because I want to access it from somewhere else. So now, let's say, okay, this is going to be a little bit, we're jumping a little bit ahead here, but go to create a static method, Sanjit, called increase faces. We're going to say we're going to increase faces to like 7 or something. And it's going to be avoided. We're not going to return anything. Cool, and then just increment it.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, just
yeah.
All right, cool. Now go to your main class. Then in your main class, we have a cube called first, and we have a cube called second, right? So now we'll take the first and second cube. So first, do the system.out.println and print the face, the number of faces on the first cube.
All right, wait. So does someone else want to do that? I'll let someone else do that.
Someone print. Someone just go to the presentation workspace and print the first cube's faces property. It'll be first dot faces.
Capital or lowercase?
I believe we named the variables all lowercase, so I think we're fine. Yeah, lowercase. Yeah. All right, and then print out the second cube's second dot faces. And then Shimon, since you're working, print this before you print the third one. So before line 31, run first dot increment or whatever the increase faces was.
Whoever put third faces, there is no third instance of cube, so that won't allow work.
Just copy the line 31 in there before you do the increase. All right, so yeah, just put line 32 in line 30. Yep. And then now print. Now do the same thing you did 29 and 30 after you do the first dot increment. Oh wait, is it called increment? By the way, is the function in cube called?
Oh,
it's increase faces.
Increase faces. Yeah, my bad.
All good, all good. I just realized. I'm like, wait a second, increment. This is hilarious. I'm watching 4 people type code at the same time.
I'm trying to figure out where the word is through all the like name tags.
Yeah. All right. Wait.
Hey, it's clear. Oh.
All right, and then increase is spelled incorrectly.
I think it's scripted. All right. Okay.
All right, cool. Everyone move your hands off. I think it's good. I think we check it out now. Now, this is a very unconventional way of doing this, but I think it's worth checking out. Now,
All right.
even though we, you want to explain this one?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, so here in the first two we have 6, right? Because that's what we assign our a number of faces. But as you can see, um we just do increase faces on the first cube, not the second cube. But even though we just do it on one cube, it changes it for both cubes. This is because we label this as static. So the whole point of static variables is that this variable is shared across all instances. So that's the reason we for both instances we have a face number of 7. And whoever put wait then you void it. So first on increase faces is actually not returning anything. It's just changing the value of faces. All right. Whoever asked that, do you understand or you want me to explain more? All right. Any questions on this?
Did this make sense? Does anyone have issues? Shamant, are you raising your hand for that?
Oh no. Oh no, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
All right. The entire point, so let's imagine a static variable, is it's a shared variable across, let's say in this case, it's all cubes. So the entire point is just making a variable that is consistently shared across all like cubes for, let's say. So it's going to be, if we increase like faces of one cube, it'll always be, that number of faces will be the same for all cubes. That's what it meant by shared cache. It's shared memory, as the more technical way.
All right. Any questions on this? All right. If there's no questions, we can keep going. All right. So static methods are similar to static properties, but basically what we use static methods for is so we can use them without making an instance of the object. So for example, some example use cases are utility classes that aren't instantiated and methods that don't use any instance properties. So if you think about system.out.println, so technically system is the class, but in order to use system.out.println, you never have to make a you never have to make a system class. You never have to instantiate a system class. This is because the println method is static. So that means you can use it without actually having to instantiate the system class. And same thing with arrays.toString. So if you want to convert an array to a string, you would use this. But you never have to actually create the arrays. You never have to instantiate the arrays class to use the toString method. And this is because toString is a static method. All right, so I'll show you guys an example of a global counter. So this is just our cube class, and this is kind of similar to the example we just saw. So we have private static int instance count equals 0. Basically, what this does is it keeps track of how many instances of cube we make. So we do this by using our constructor. So as we know, a constructor runs every time an instance of the class is created. So each time an instance of cube is created, it will increase the instance count by 1. So let's say we create 5 instances of cube in our main class. So each time our instance count will go up by 1, and then our instance count would be 5. And notice that this value would be shared among all of the instances of the class, and that's the main reason of static. All right, any questions on this? All right. All right. Hale, I think you can finish right now.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so now, no pun intended, we're going to be learning about our final property. And our final property we're learning about today is the final property. So basically, when you would use a final property is when you want a variable to only be assigned a value once, and then the rest of the time you access that property, you want it to only be read-only. So basically, if you mark a variable as final, then basically that means that you set the value as once, and then after that you don't want to set it again. So some instances when you would use the final property is if you're assigning a property inside a constructor and you want it to never change. And basically any constant value that you have. So in the next slide, we'll see an example of a constant that you would want to mark as a final. So basically any variable that you're going to make as a constant, you're going to want to name it in upper snake case. So basically what that means is that your variable name, every single letter is going to be capitalized. And if you need to separate between like two words, you would use the underscore. And also usually when we're creating like a final property, we would also add a static to it because we want every single instance of the class to have the same property. So we'll see an example on the next slide of how you'd use a final property. So we're going back to our class circle. And one thing you can see which we made as a final variable is this double pi. And so the reason for that is because pi is always going to be 3.1415926 no matter what happens. So you don't want anyone to change this value of pi. You want it to stay as this value forever. So we're going to attach a file to it so no instance of the code can modify the variable. And the only time when it can do so is if it wants to read it off. So you can see later in the code in our area method over here, public double area, we're going to be using the pi value over here to calculate the area of the circle. So does anyone have any questions on when they would use the final modifier? Okay, if not, then we can move on to our next topic for today, and that's going to be an array list. So just a class ago or 2 classes ago, you guys learned about arrays, which basically hold different values of the same type together. And one thing that you might have noticed about arrays is that after you define the size of your array, you can't change it. So for example, if I created an integer array of size 10, that means I can only store in 10 objects inside that array. If I needed to add one more integer value, I wouldn't be able to do it. So a reason why we would use array lists instead of array is because array lists are basically going to be resizable arrays. So that means that you can increase the amount of variables in there, or you can decrease them as well. So there are some things that in which array lists are going to differ from arrays. And the first thing is that array lists are going to start with the size of 0 unless specified otherwise. So since they start with 0, if you just add values, then the size of the array list is going to increase. The second thing is array lists. They don't use square brackets in their notation. And that's because they use method because array lists are going to be a type of class that you're going to be instantiating or you're going to be getting values from. And array lists also cannot hold primitives and they must hold objects. So as you recall, this lowercase int and this lowercase double, lowercase boolean, lowercase char, these are all primitives. And since you can't store these primitive values in an array list, we do have object versions of these primitives. So for example, the object version of this primitive double is just going to be double, but with a capital D. Same thing for int, we're going to have integer. Boolean is going to have a Boolean object. And our character over here is going to have its object character. And one thing about array lists is that they're less memory efficient than using arrays. So unless you know for sure that you're going to want to have a resizable array, you should just use the normal array instead of ArrayList. So does anyone have any questions on what an ArrayList will do? Okay, if not, then on the next slide, we'll learn about how you can instantiate different ArrayLists. So here's the syntax for ArrayList instantiation. So the first thing you need to do is above every class, you're going to have to do import java.util.ArrayList because ArrayList is a type of class, so we need to import it. And the syntax is basically ArrayList, and then you're going to use the less than sign, and then you're going to put the type of object that you're going to be storing, then put the greater than sign. And then next is the name portion. So you can name the array list any variable name you want. And then you set it equal to new array list, put the type in between the less than and greater than sign, and just add the parentheses after that. So let's look at an example over here. So first we're creating an integer array list and we're going to be naming it numbers. So we're doing array list and then our type integer, and we're going to be calling this one numbers is equal to new array list integer. So that means that since we didn't declare a size in the parentheses, it's going to be starting off as a size 0 array list, and you can only store integer values in here. So the second one that we're creating is array list, and in between the greater than and less than sign, we're going to be putting in double. And then our name for this array list is going to be decimals. And this is going to be equal to new array list double. And in parentheses, we're putting in the number 10. So if we're putting in the number 10 in the parentheses, that means that our array list is going to start off as a size 10 array list. And this decimals array list is only going to be storing in double variables. And you don't need to only store integer doubles. You can store any class in ArrayList. So in our third example over here, you can see ArrayList, and we're only going to be storing in cube objects or cube variables. And we're going to be naming this ArrayList as cubes. And then we're going to be setting it equal to new ArrayList cube. And then we don't have any value in the parentheses, so that means that our ArrayList is going to start off as size 0 as of right now. So does anyone have any questions on how you would instantiate ArrayLists? Okay, moving on. So here we can see the difference between how you would do something for a normal array and how you would do something for an array list. So first we can see the differences in their creation. For the array, all you would do is you would do the primitive, and then you'd add the square brackets, you'd put the name, and then you'd do equal to new, and then your primitive type, and then you would put the size of the array in the square brackets. But for an array list, basically what you would do is you would do array list, and then inside the greater than or less than sign, you would put your type, and then you'd put your name is equal to new array list, and then you'd add the greater than less than sign, and you would also add parentheses. And then the size of the array list is optional. Next, you can see how we would set a value for arrays and for array lists. So for arrays, all you would do is you would do like the name of your array, and then you do the square brackets, and you'd put in the index. So for example, over here we have array 0 is equal to 5. So that means at the 0th position of this array, we'd be setting it as a value of 5. Versus in an array list, since an array list is a class, we'd be using methods. So you can see here we have our variable name list, and we're going to be doing list.set, and then our first parameter is 0, and our second parameter is going to be 5. So this basically means that the first parameter is going to be your index in the array list, and your second value is going to be, your second parameter is the value you're going to be passing in. So now we can see, oh, whoops. Okay, now we can see how to get a value in an array. So when you're getting a value from an array, all you would do is you do the array name, and then inside the square brackets, you would just put what index you want to get from. So for example, array square bracket 0, it would return a value of 5 basically. Versus in the array list, we'd be using a method called get. So your variable name dot get, and then in as a parameter, you'd be passing in basically what index you want to get from. Next, getting the length of an array in an array list also differs. For an array, all you would do is array.length, versus in an array list, you would do list.size. So for an array, you'd be using length, and for an array list, it's a method called size. And then for arrays, you don't have any way that you can add, remove, add a value, remove a value, or remove all the values. Because as you remember, arrays have a given amount of space on them based on like what you set it as. Versus in an array list, you can change the size of the array list as you go along. So if you wanted to add a value, all you would do is list.add, and you just put the value in here. And it will create a new space in the array list, and then it will store your value in there. Similarly, if you wanted to remove a value from any index, you would do list.remove, and in the parentheses, you would put what index you want to remove from. And if you want to completely clear an array list and delete all the values, then all you would have to do is list.clear. So does anyone have any questions on any of these? Okay, if not, we can go to an example of the different methods on an array list. So you can see at the top, we're creating our array list, and we're going to be naming it numbers. And as of right now, it has a size 0, and it only stores in integer values. So even though it has a size of 0, we can add elements to it. So we're going to be adding in 3 elements right now. So we're doing numbers.add 226, numbers.add 3641, and numbers.add 862. So when we first declared the array list, we started off with 0 values, but now we have 3 values. We have 226, 3641, and 862. So now we're going to have a total of 3 elements, but after that, we're going to have a line called numbers.remove1. And basically, we're going to be removing the element at the first index. So 226 is going to be at our 0th index, and the first index is going to have the value of 3641. So we're going to be removing this value, and now after this line, our array list only has 2 values. It has 226 and 862. And now we're going to be creating this for loop to print all our elements. And when we do this system.out.println, we're only going to be printing 226 and 862. So does anyone have any questions on this array list example? Okay, if not, then you guys can try out ArrayList on your own. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to instantiate an array list of strings, and you're going to name it colors. And then you're going to add any 4 colors of your choice. Then after that, remove a single color, print out the collection, and then at the end, finally clear out your entire array list. So since this is a new topic, I'll give you guys around 10 minutes to complete it. And once you guys are done, as always, just raise your hands and we'll continue on from there. So go ahead, guys.
So I have a question. When you're instantiating the array list, so in the like inside the two inside the two arrow marks, like you're putting strings, right? Or is it string
Yeah.
or strings?
You would put the type that you're storing in. So since for this one you want to store in values of strings, inside the less than and greater than sign, you're going to be putting in strings.
And is it the same on the other side, on the right side?
Yeah, you put it on the right side too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Nice to see a lot of participation. Vignesh, do you want to paste your code into the main session and then explain what you did?
Okay.
Okay, and let me clear this out for a sec. Vignesh, did you paste your code in yet? Okay, nice, I see it.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, so do you want to explain what you did here?
Oh, it says 5 errors.
Let's see what they are. Oh, that's because you pasted in your main method into the main method we already have.
Oh, whoops. Let me just delete that.
Yeah, sure.
Let's try this again. Okay. All right, one more. Error reached end of the.
From line 27.
Oh. Okay. It keeps showing errors.
Okay, let's see if we added in all the curly braces. So we have a curly brace for the for. We have a curly brace for main. I think we need a curly brace for the class. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's a font in front for the me. Let me see if it works now. Oh. No, on my workspace it says it's printing it fine.
Okay, let's see what the error might be. Oh, you forgot to import yeah.
Oh. My bad.
Okay, let's see if it should work now.
Yeah. So should I explain it now?
Oh, let me see if it's printing something.
Oh, it's not printing anything because I put colors.clear.
Oh, do colors.clear after your print statement.
Oh, all right.
Okay, now it prints red, blue, and yellow. So do you want to explain what you did here?
I'm not really explain it, but I'll try my best.
Okay, nice.
So here I am what is it called again?
Instantiating?
Yeah, I'm instantiating the array list here, and then I'm adding the colors red, blue, green, and yellow. And then here I'm doing colors that remove, which removes green from the list. And then I made a for loop here, and this prints this prints the colors to the terminal, and then this clears the list.
Okay, nice explanation, Vignesh. Does anyone have any questions on how he did his code? Okay, if not, then you guys can enjoy some memes over here. So we have our new innovative way of coding, emoji code. You guys should install it. And you have non-STEM students trying to have a discussion with that STEM student barging in. And yeah, this is all we have for this presentation. And since we ran out of time yesterday, to finish some of the presentations, we wanted to go back to that presentation and give you guys some more time to work on it. So that's what we'll be doing for the rest of the class. Okay, so this is our class slide from yesterday. And I remember that we were doing the computer class, but then we ran out of time. So, you guys forgot what the computer class exercise was? Basically, what you had to do is you had to create a class named computer, and then you had to give it these following properties. So you have to give it double speed, int RAM, int HDD, and you set these values using a constructor. And then after that, you have to have a Boolean variable called turned on and keep it set to false right now. And once you guys are done setting up those variables, you'd have to use the following methods. So the first method is public string and then toString. And this is going to return a string of meaningful information about the computer. So basically, in a string format, tell us what the speed, the RAM, and the HDD of your computer is. Next, you have public void turn on. And remember, we created this Boolean turned on variable before. So using this turn on function, basically all this is going to do is it's going to set turned on as equal to true. Public void turn off is going to be the opposite, set turned on to false. And then your final one is public void restart. And in this method, just call the turn off method, and then after that, call the turn on method. And then once you guys are done declaring all these methods, instantiate a computer variable in your application class, so in main.java, and set all the properties and call all its methods and see if it works. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes or maybe 10 to 12 minutes to finish this exercise. And once you guys are done, just raise your hand as always.
Sorry guys, I just reconnected to the meeting. I kind of lost connection in between. What are we doing right now? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, so remember how yesterday we were in the middle of doing some exercises, but we didn't finish them?
Oh,
We ran
right,
out of
yeah.
time.
Right,
Yeah, so
right.
we're just doing this computer class exercise right now. We're finishing it up.
Oh, yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so anyone else who finished doing this, please raise your hands. Okay, so I guess, Alan, do you want to explain your code?
Sure. Do you want me to like?
Okay, let me create a computer.java file for you. And then you can paste in your computer code and then you can explain what you did there. And now you can paste in all the code you had in there.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, do you want to explain everything that you did here?
Yeah, sure. So the top part, I just had to do the variables. I did the turn on equals false. And because I didn't want to like have to do all the variables again, I just made the like a constructor and just put all the variables in this like class. And I did toString, which turned it into a string that you could print. I did turn on, which made turn on true. Turn off, which made it false. Then restart, which you turn off, then you turn on.
Perfect. So does anyone have any questions on this computer class?
I mean,
and also when you're naming this method, we're gonna be doing lower camel case for this. So instead of having a capital letter R, it's just good practice to have a lowercase r. But yeah, everything else was perfect. And did anyone have a question?
Not really a question. I just added like I just added like a GPU and the GPU speed and GPU memory, video RAM memory or VRAM.
You mean these variables?
Yeah, I also added like double GPU speed and double VRAM.
Oh, did you create like additional variables to this?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you could definitely add more if you wanted to. And okay, so does anyone else have any questions on this computer code? Okay, if not, then Alan, in this main method, do you want to instantiate a computer variable and call the methods and stuff?
Sure.
Okay, and can you explain like your instantiation over here?
Yeah, so I created the computer one. And then I did the speed, RAM, and HDD. So that was the 13.2, 3, and then 4. And then I did the turn off, then turned it back on. And then I did the restart. And then I printed the turn on. And then I called the method toString.
Nice, let's see if it works. Yep, perfect. So our toString method is printing out the speed, the RAM, and the HDD, just as we set it up here. And all the other methods seem to be working. So good job, Alan. Does anyone have any questions on his code? Okay, then if not, then we'll be doing our final presentation on this slideshow.
Oh wait, actually, we're thinking let's just move on to the subgroup preferences. This one will be like an optional one, and if you have questions, you can come beginning of tomorrow or stay after class today. Cool. If you let me screen share, all right. Window, programming subgroups. So just as a quick like, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we see it.
We can see it.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
So just as a quick like throw of information for what subgroups you'll be able to pick. We're thinking next Wednesday after you take this test. So we'll start off with FRC. Arnav?
So before we start on that, I want to talk a little bit about what subgroups are. So basically, since programming is such a large group, we divide everyone into different subgroups. So everyone has an equal chance of learning or doing programming on the team. So we have 4 different subgroups this year since we have a lot of people this year. So I'll start talking about FRC a little bit. So FRC, that's the main competition robot. We work on the competition robot. We use Java, of course. We assist, and you guys will assist in writing programs to operate of the subsystems like the drivetrain, the arm, elevators, climbers, all of that stuff. And you guys will also learn how to use electronics such as motor controllers and sensors. Does anyone have any questions for FRC? Here are a few pictures.
Yeah, I had one question.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the actual robot programming, I mean, I've never, I mean, in the FTC, I've always like, just went and like helped people with code, but I've never really coded it like exactly fully myself. So is it like just a bunch of predefined like variables, or do we have to like manually like configure each and every like part with like each and every variable and like associate it that way?
So yeah, it's a little bit different than FTC in the sense that since FTC has a lot of predefined code and all that stuff, for FRC it's a little bit different. There's a library, but we basically have to code the entire robot. There's no like predefined examples or anything, so we'd have to do that all on our own.
Yeah, that
So
allows for more customizability. Yeah,
exactly.
it makes more sense.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just felt FTC was a little not so much restrictive, but like just less customizable.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any questions? Shamanth, you have your hand raised.
Oh no, sorry.
All right. Is there anything in the chat? There's not. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? We'll just have a question and answer period at the end as well. Anish, I think you can move on to the next slide.
Oh yeah, wait. I also had one more question. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
Let's just say you want to be like part of like 2 subgroups. Let's just say you want to like, do part of FRC, the part of the FRC subgroup, and also you want to do a little bit of the Python subgroup as well. Is that possible?
So, for this particular season, we also have a data analytics group. So that's also going to work a little bit with Python. So that one you can work on with FRC if you wanted, and Python as well. But you wouldn't actually be with the Python subgroup. You would be with the data analytics subgroup.
Okay, because I just wanted to have a little versatility of 2 languages so I can like go on later and do stuff.
Yep.
Am I good to move?
Anyone else? Yeah, I think you're good.
All right, cool. So the next one up is LabVIEW, and LabVIEW is another way to program robots, except a little bit more in like a block-like code. So it's LabVIEW is a powerful graphical programming language where you use blocks and wires to program, for our case, a robot. What we'll use LabVIEW for is mainly learning how to program a robot and assisting other teams that use LabVIEW. And these are generally rookie teams that are either coming to us for help or during competition. And then we also, of course, assisting other teams at competition. So that's LabVIEW. Here's what LabVIEW does look like. Any questions? Is there any hands raised? I can't see teams.
Yeah, no, nobody has their hands raised. I think we can move on.
All right, cool. Hero.
Okay, and the third subgroup is called Hero. So Hero is written in C#. You guys might have seen this in like at Athens or at Troy High. We bring our candy launcher robot, or you've seen our Salvation Army robot. That's all written in C#, and that's what the Hero group would do. So they would assist, kind of like an FRC, assist for programming for individual components on each robot, as well as configuring electronics and hardware on the robot. So this is more for like outreach events and outreach robots. But you would be doing it pretty much what you would be doing in FRC, just for off-season robots and outreach robots.
All right, I had
Anyone have
one
any
question. Let's just say this year I wanted to do something with like FRC. The next year I want to just like, take a little, just be a little less like, having less of a like timeline and like, wanting to do a little bit of the hero program. Is that like possible, or do I have to like stick with one throughout the rest of my entire like, hammerheads, like the entire time I'm with the hammerheads?
Okay, so what we would suggest is that if you would want to jump around, we'd suggest that you do Hero first and then join FRC afterwards. It would be a little bit more difficult to do it the other way around.
All right, yeah, because I was just wondering, like, if you could, like, do a little bit of the FRC and then, like, later on you want to do a little bit of the, I just wanted to see if you could, like, switch it up.
Yeah.
And... All right.
All right.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah,
No
I was
questions?
wondering how many people were in each subgroup.
We still have to decide on that. There's still people still signing up for programming, so once we get a full head count, we'll be able to tell. But it should be around 5, at most 7 people per subgroup.
Okay.
But it depends on how many more people join.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Yep. Anyone else have any questions? No questions? Okay, I think you can move on, Anish.
All right, and on to our final subgroup, the Python subgroup. Just as a explanation of what Python is, Python's an interpreted higher level language. It is an interpreted language, not a compiled language, so it reads line by line, and we'll discuss more about how that works in the subgroup. And it has a outstanding package manager pip, along with the huge library of random code that if you need to do something, it's probably a library for it. Once we learn Python, we'll be using it for things such as Raspberry Pis and, as Arnav said earlier, data analysis, especially for competition. Is there any question for that? And then, of course, here's the example code. Is there any question for Python?
I don't see any questions. Does anyone have any questions in general, just for Python subgroups, or how we decide that? Does anyone have any questions? No questions. Okay. Seems like we don't have any questions.
Yeah, I think we're good here then.
Yeah. So after the programming test, we'll give you guys a couple of days to decide. So after you guys take your programming test, you guys will be able to fill out a form that allows you to choose your subgroup preference for programming this year.
I just had a quick question. So if there's like 26 people in this meeting right now and around like 4 subgroups or something like that, wouldn't that like...
No, there's a lot of other previous members, right? So
yeah, so
so not everyone's showing up to the meeting. So like right now we have 26 people here, but we have 30 people, I believe 39 people, or 38 or 39 people in the roster, including leads, of course. So not everyone's showing up to the meetings, but that's why it's like up to how many people actually take the test. Once we get a number of how many people take the test, then we'll get like a good number.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I also had another question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope this is not like I hope this is not like anything like too personal or anything. But how do you become like a lead?
That's still gonna be a while. That's still a while away.
I know. I'm just asking. the future,
Yeah, so that's more of until you still have a long way to go. There's still like after build season. But basically, you fill out an application, and the mentors and the coach and the presidents decide on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be a fool if I'd apply this year, but maybe in a few years.
It's essentially try hard, participate, and help out the team. You'll be recognized.
All right then.
Anyone else have any questions? No questions.
Anything about programming?
Anything in general?
I mean, I guess I could ask like, what is abstraction and what is like what are these like different things like? What is abstraction? What is encapsulation and things like that?
That's a very like difficult topic. We can explain it later. It's a more object-oriented topic, and object-oriented is a pretty difficult one to teach. So I say we'll think about it later.
I guess wait on that, I guess.
Yeah, to wait on that.
All right then. All right, guys, all the best for the test, I guess.
Oh, actually, before we go, another thing that we wanted to let you guys do is, of course, it's not fair to let you guys off without like some sort of review exercises, things like that. So we're going to give you a review slide. If you go to the bootcamp folder, there should be a. You guys all have access to the bootcamp folder? Raise your hand if you don't.
If not, it's in the first day's presentation.
It's in the first day's presentation, or I'll send a link in a second if anyone doesn't have it. Does everyone have it? Raise your hand if you don't.
Could you send the link?
Yeah, it's in the chat. Nihil will put it in the chat.
Yep. So is that the review slides?
I believe so.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
it is.
Yeah. So these are the review slides. We have time until 8 o'clock to do this. So if you guys, we're giving you the option. If you guys want to stay and do the review exercises, by all means stay. We'll be here to answer any questions you have. Or if you want to do it at just like leave the meeting now and do it later, by all means go ahead. And then of course we'll have our little mini office hour at 5 o'clock tomorrow. So
right.
If you guys want to stay. Otherwise, I think that's it. Good luck for tomorrow. Come in at 5 if you want help. If you need help or questions or anything.
And make sure you come before 6 because we are gonna start the test at 6.
All right. I also had a question. So can we just like do the review exercise right now outside of the meeting, and when we want to like have like a question or something, we can like join back in and just like ask. Is that like possible?
Yeah,
you can do that.
Yeah, cause like I just don't want like, cause I don't know why my computer's kind of slow today.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Like I guess my bandwidth's slow. Oh yeah, it's really slow. Shoot. All right. I guess see you guys and all the best for the test.
All right. I think yeah. Finish the review exercises. They'll help you. Ria, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I actually might be busy tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll be able to take the test tomorrow. So what would I do for that?
Are you sure you're not taking the test tomorrow, or is it like a half-half?
Probably like a half-half.
All right. DM me on Slack. DM me and Arnav on Slack. You're on Slack, right? You're on the Slack?
Yeah.
Yeah, DM me and Arnav on Slack if you can't come. If you can, then we'll just you don't have to DM. Or actually just DM that you can come. Just like follow up whenever you find out.
All right. Thank you.
Another question?
Yeah, so would I also have to mail you, because mine is like half-half. Like I can come for the office hours, but I'd probably have to leave after that because I have a scheduling conflict. Is that okay?
Is it guaranteed? Or is it a half-half?
A half-half, I'm not sure.
Are you on the Slack?
Yeah, I am.
Same thing. DM me and Arnav.
All right.
Once you find out, just as like a follow-up. Anyone else?
Okay.
Arunima, you still have your hand raised. Do you have another question?
No.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. I'm doing
Go.
programming with this secondary team. Could I still join a subgroup or no?
Yeah, you can.
Go ahead, yeah.
All right, we'll be on. If you have any questions, just shout it out.
Also, if we're not able to make it at 5 tomorrow, can we email you if we need help?
Yeah,
yeah, you can do that.
Preferably Slack, but if you have to email.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
It's still recording. I mean, no point. We'll just go somewhere else, right? Oh, oops. Oh, you're talking about Teams.